I think about a lot of things as in Texas right now. We're starting to kind of wind things down, and we've talked about different ways of recruiting. I'm not recruiting, but hiring and all that kind of stuff. But one of the things I was thinking about had to do with recruiting, Mike. That
Yeah.
sometimes, how do I say this right? It's like if we could just take a snapshot and keep when things are going well, and just hold it and say this is the way it's going to be. But that's not really. I don't think that's life. Number
No.
one, and I'm not sure that that's the way our programs work all the time. That we can't just say, "All right, we've recruited, we've arrived, we've got these great kids, and we're always going to have these kids." Because by nature, they move on in their education, and eventually
Mhm.
they go away. So I'm asking you this morning: is it important at what levels, and what can we do to retain the kids we have? And B, is it important to start recruiting? And do we have to always recruit? I mean, it's not a one time event, right?
Oh, no doubt. It's a constant, constant battle. And we did a really cool podcast with Mr. Anthony Gibson,
Right.
kind of talking about band culture and, getting butts in the seats and things like that. So we kind of touched on some things. Today's podcast is going to be more kind of the nuts and bolts of things we can do. But to answer your question, yeah, it's a continual process. It's like
Yeah.
washing the dishes, making the bed, mowing the yard. It's not that you do it all the time, but it has to be taken care of when it needs to be taken care of.
But we used to have let's get the jazz band, or let's get all my seniors, and let's go down to the elementary, and we got a 1 or 2 week period here where we go visit all the kids and say joint band, and that was recruiting.
Yeah, and life was a lot simpler. I can remember this, you'll get a kick out of this, and maybe some of the listeners will. But I joined band because I was in North Dakota and I was at Twining Elementary. And this man came with the band from, I don't even know the high school we fed, to tell you the truth, or the next school we fed. But they played the theme from MASH.
Oh yeah,
And I was sold. I mean, because I loved watching that show,
sure.
So isn't it funny how in recruiting that one little tiny thing was like, yeah, I want to be in that group because they played the thing from MASH.
So I'm gonna second that. And by the way, I think it's ironic that everybody loves the theme from MASH, and then they find out it's titled "Suicide is Painless."
Very dark, yeah.
But if you've ever heard the lyrics, it changes the
Oh yeah,
whole thing.
yeah.
But same story, 6th grade, sitting in a high school auditorium because one of the service bands came through.
Oh wow.
And they played the as a trumpet player. I think we've all at some point played Bugler's Holiday.
Oh yeah.
Where you got the trio out front.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. I didn't have to have anybody ask me to join band after that. I was in.
Yeah, I think our brains are just simpler, and the times were simpler. I think kids are a lot more intelligent. Now, maybe that's not the word for it. They understand more what's going on around them because of social media and so forth. But I'll tell you another funny little story. They each all stood up and played their instruments after they played their little concert, and I wanted to be a clarinet player.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh man, I thought, because the band director played clarinet and he played his part. It was absolutely amazing. And my mother was, and my mother was a clarinet player.
Oh, there you go.
She was in Chief Davidson's band in Plainview.
Oh wow! How about that?
So she was an amazing clarinet player. But when I got the form to take home, you circled what you wanted to play, and I circled cornet because I thought that was what they were playing.
The same.
So we went to the music store, and my dad went with me, and he was going to rent a horn so I could start in good old Twining Elementary in 6th grade. And they brought out this cornet and opened it up. And I said, Dad, that's not what I want to play. I wanted to play. And he goes, you just need to be quiet. Your band director signed that form, and you're playing whatever your band director said you're playing.
Wow.
And I almost got a trumpet performance degree as a bachelor's degree. And it was all just a mistake. And my dad was like, that band director said you're playing this. So that's it.
Take away from that. Number one, parents trusted the teachers.
Yeah, no doubt.
And number two, I'm not sure that fate wasn't on your side that day.
I think it was. But I think in his deal, it wasn't maybe as much trusting the teacher. it would have just really kind of made him upset to have to come back to the music store again because that was a 30-mile round trip. He'd go, no, I take that to school, and then the band goes, "This isn't what I said for you to play." Then he'd gone, "Okay, we're going back to the music store. Here we go, back to Grand Forks, North Dakota."
But Mike, the other thing that I'm thinking though is that we have encouraged diversification so much. Try it, go try this, and we brought in. And listen, I'm trying not to step up on a soapbox, but
Yeah.
there's too many. There's so many. I shouldn't say too many. There's so many choices.
Yeah.
For people to do different things now than there was.
Oh, yeah, no kidding.
I'm not going to say how many years ago, but about the same time period. So I don't know that didn't add to the educators' workload as far as recruiting and trying to retain.
We had a lot of advantages when I first started teaching. There wasn't a lot of electives, so you didn't have to recruit as hard because band was seen on Friday nights and kids wanted to do it. But we both know, and all the listeners out there know, that as time progressed, then there was robotics, and then there was video film class, and there was really cool stuff. So I can't take away from them, but it definitely made our job more interesting. So we had to really think about recruiting. It wasn't a one-time event like it'd been in the past.
Okay. So, it's safe to say that recruiting has kind of become an all-year deal.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And keep in mind that we're recruiting the kids, of course, the students, and the easiest thing to do to get them into this recruiting process is realize that most students don't come to school for algebra and chemistry class. And don't get me wrong, I loved math. In fact, I was like 2 classes away from a college bachelor's degree in mathematics because of my computer science background. So I loved mathematics. I was a number sense guy, whatever, but I didn't come to school for that. I came to school for band, and I think a lot of kids are that way. And plus, I think one just overarching factor to think about, and I know it sounds like, oh, poor us band kids kind of thing, but, there's kids need to belong somewhere.
Right.
And athletics and some of the deals that my son was in athletics and band, and some activities are a little more closed than other activities. You know what I mean? I really believe that any kid, you've seen this before. I've had kids in all areas of the spectrum of autism. I've had kids in wheelchairs, cerebral palsy. I've had kids who were very much big time introverts. Kids who were, our band was full of FFA kids, goth kids, heavy metal rockers, long hair, disco kids. It just goes on forever. It is like a cross section of the school, and very few activities are that way. And I think that's one thing for you guys out there, and ladies out there who are recruiting. Use that to your advantage, because it also is the best thing for the kids. I think sometimes more so than the music. Might get pelted for that, but I think the sense of community and belonging to something bigger than that one student is more important than the music.
I'll agree with you, but I think that music is the social lubricant in that scenario, or it's the commonality that allows all those different people.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I would say some things to also remember. You are recruiting the parents. So a lot of times I see recruiting situations to where they kind of lay back on the communication to the parents. They just kind of lay into the kids of, this is what it offers, this is what we can do. Then they depend on the students to go home and convince their parents that that's what they want to do. And most parents, if my kid came home and said he wanted to do whatever, if he was real excited about it, what am I going to do? I'm going to, hey, let's do it. Let's give it a shot.
There's times that parents are just hoping that the kid finds his place.
Oh yeah.
That makes him or her excited to actually keep going to school.
Right.
And I don't mean to put it in that, I wish everybody was like pragmatic enough to say, this is what I have to do until I graduate to allow myself to be more successful in life.
Oh yeah.
And Mike, I think, listen, this is not in any of the notes that you sent me that you might talk about, but I think we spend so much time bashing public schools these days that we've almost created not just music, but a negative sense of school all around. So we have to make sure the kids want to be there.
Yes.
This is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, I agree with that, because in a lot of ways at this moment, we are in a lot of ways, as public schools, it's a failed system in a lot of ways. But we can definitely take our band program and make it look like the crown jewel
Right. A
of
shining
what's
spot.
happening.
Yeah.
And for kids who, and this is just a whole nother, and we've talked about it before, could be a whole nother podcast, is it also helps kids with their mental stability.
Yeah.
They're not just roaming the halls and going to their locker and going to class and going home and whatever. Even if they don't say a word to anybody, there's something about picking up that trombone and playing in a musical ensemble or singing in a choir, or acting in one act play.
Yep.
And I go off on that tangent. How many kids did you ever see that it's amazing? They're the biggest introvert in the world, never say a word.
Put them on stage.
Put them on stage with memorized dialogue, and they become this amazing personality.
Right.
And that amazing personality was always inside of them. So I'm not going to get too much like on my mountaintop and we're saving the world.
Right.
But we are saving one kid at a time, giving them, and it saved me. It saved me, man.
You've heard me say it how many times. So I'm trying to avoid the political aspect of what I said. But the truth is, if we can get the marketing out I hate putting it in those terms, but if we can create a brand that is the band.
Oh yeah.
And all the things that it does, number one, the parents got to be happy because I don't know the science, but it makes kids perform better. They use so many different parts of the brain. And, kids probably don't want to. That's why I want to be in band, so I can test better.
Yeah, but for the parents, it makes them a better child at home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Think about that. They understand why they need to take out the trash. They understand why they need to do certain things within the family construct.
So is it important to, as an educator, as a teacher, as the director, do I need to work at branding who we are?
Yeah, and that branding comes with a lot of planning, and we've got to make sure that plan is in place. And everyone, if you're the only person on staff, you just need to know it. If you got 2 or 3 directors, everyone has to know what's going on, because we all know that good planning creates trust.
Right.
That parents understand when something is presented to them in a very planned way. It's not seen as a evangelistic, I'm going to get you. It's seen as, I care enough about you that I'm going to give you all the information I can, so you as an adult and a parent can make an appropriate decision. Right. What your child wants to do.
But I think we could do that through social media. Listen, I remember too well going to parent meetings where the director flies in 5 minutes late, then starts setting up the sound system, then starts looking for all the paperwork that he wanted to pass out. And as a parent, you're just kind of going, do I want my child part of that?
Yeah. Are these the skills this person's going to teach my child?
Right.
And then they'll apologize profusely for how busy it is and how I'm so sorry I didn't get all this done in time. And if that's a one-off, it better not happen on the day of recruiting with the parent meeting.
Right.
That's the time. That needs to happen at a rehearsal, when we're trying to get things done and you screwed up, don't screw up with the parent meeting.
The simple thing I'm saying, Mike, is you are branding, but not the way you want to.
Yeah, you are branding. What a great quote. No matter what we do, we are branding.
We're always branding.
Yeah, we're branding. If the parent walks up and you're railing on some kid in marching season about the way they're out of step and you just relentless, you're branding.
Right.
So be careful of what you're doing all the time. Okay.
Have you heard this saying before? Everything we do is a transaction, is a sales. We're selling ourselves all the time.
Oh yeah.
One way or another.
About that. Yeah, good or bad, it's happening. So some things you can do is, of course you have to have your parent meetings, present all the information that you possibly can. I think a great way to do it is send out a survey at the end of your parent recruiting, asking what information they did not receive.
Huh.
And then they'll tell you, because they're kind of a little perturbed at that point. Said, well, you never told us this, and you never told us that. They're going to be honest, more honest than the kids will be, and you can implement that the next year. So because things that we think are obvious are not obvious to the parents. I experienced that greatly when my son went into athletics, because I did like junior high football and stuff, and sure. I wasn't very good, but I enjoyed the camaraderie and the games. But when my son got into athletics, I had no idea when the track meets were. I had no idea when things happened. I had no idea what things I needed to pay for or not pay for, when I needed meal money. And the other parents seemed to know those things.
Right.
And it made me realize that, oh, that's how my veteran band parents, they know those things. The rookie band parents, they have to find that from me. That's better than to hear it secondhand as hearsay from the veteran band parents. Now, don't get me wrong. We want the veteran band parents to help. But if all the information comes from them, we're kind of dropping the ball.
Cooked.
Yeah. Because they're telling what they're telling them,
But I'll say this too, Mike. I think that it's a human nature thing that people don't want to look ignorant. I don't know why. Yeah. The only way we learn is by asking questions. But you have to make sure you're presenting all the information, because a lot of times they're going to be too embarrassed to stand up, and I don't want to look stupid and ask a stupid question. So make sure that you're giving all the information. Your packets are accurate. Another thing, this sounds kind of self-serving, but I don't know that I wouldn't encourage most of my educator friends. I get this question a lot. Can you give me a list of pricing, blah, blah, blah. Quit putting yourself in that position. Here's the music store. They'll tell you all about it. Because we've worked these plans out.
Yes.
So
yes.
Anyway, that's my quick plug. We're happy to help you in your recruiting.
And yes, and I know I've never been turned down by a music store anywhere I've ever worked that didn't say, we'd be more than happy to come out to your parent meeting.
Absolutely.
If you'll give us 5-6 minutes, we'll have some brochures ready, and and even to the point, sometimes our parent meetings, that's when we do our horn drive, but I've done that a number of times. I actually wouldn't recommend that. I would make that like the second parent meeting.
Sure.
Because that's kind of overwhelming for a parent. Hey, I want your kid in band. Give me some money.
The music store appreciates the fact not to have the drive necessarily, just to have the opportunity to say, hey, we're here to help as well. We'll answer all the financial questions so Mr. Lunney doesn't have to, answer it 50 times tonight.
Yes. And for those listeners out there, just one of those quiet part out loud, you can get yourself as a band director in a world of trouble by down talking certain instruments and upgrading other instruments. So give your preferred instrument list, but the road reps and the music store in your area, they know how to word things that are legally acceptable. Does that make sense? So if you get there and say, oh, no, if it comes with white gloves, we don't, that's actually a piece of crap right there. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, no, it's you can get yourself in trouble.
Yeah, we've learned the phrase, in our opinion.
Yeah, in our opinion, yes. But don't take that all on yourself. Don't, especially in front of a whole group of parents.
Sure.
Man, don't expose yourself to any kind of, because we don't know where those parents work.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
There might be some connection through some big box store that they procure that instrument line from some, I don't know. I'm getting out there overly dramatic maybe, but you just don't know. So just kind of keep your mouth shut. Let the music store kind of do that part. Tell them what your preferred instrument list is. If they ask you about something else, well, that's not on my preferred instrument list. I just really like these instruments because for me, in my opinion, these instruments play in tune better. They're easier to repair. They last longer. They have some worth in them when you want to trade them off. So keep to that. In my opinion, these are the instruments I want.
I'm going to throw this out here. I realize I'm trying not to get us off in the weeds, but one of the things I think would help is, Mr. Mathematician, certain level, everybody has to have the same calculator.
Yeah.
In math class.
Yeah.
And they say, this is the calculator we want. It's not because they're promoting necessarily that brand. I mean, obviously it's their preference.
Yeah.
But imagine what it's like to be the teacher and have to learn 50 different calculators and how they work and where the buttons are.
It's funny you say that because my mathematic background came out sometimes because parents would ask, why do you want these preferred instruments? And I'd say, well, it'd be like going to math class and they want a graphing calculator. And I show up with one of those little jobs from Walmart that adds, divides, subtracts, and
it was $10, but it won't do what it needs to do.
$10, but it's going to be absolutely useless to them in graphing class.
Right.
It's a great calculator, don't get me wrong, but it's going to be useless to what they need to have done in math class. Right. And it's the same thing in band. We need, and I'm living a first world problem here because I've also taught in 1A, 2A, and sometimes you just have to deal with Grandma Susie's clarinet out of the closet.
Look what we found in the barn.
And yeah, and get it repadded, and we do what we have to do, and I respect that because I've been there. I think some of those horns I used in some of these little towns I worked in probably been around since 1890. I think it just
That's fun.
I had a kid bring up a metal clarinet one time. This was in the 80s, and so this is my grandma had this clarinet. And but man, and in my mind, I'm thinking, man, that'd make a great lampstand.
You're saying I got two in the garage right now.
Yeah,
I'm going to convert into lamps.
yeah. So we just have to deal with it because remember that when you're dealing with music, that you're dealing with personality, you're dealing with ego, you're dealing with a different part of people's brain.
Yeah.
If that's dad's old trumpet, that's kind of like another dad's babies.
It's really
You know what I
hard to
mean?
fight sentimentalism.
Yeah, it's different. It's almost as emotionally connected as dad's old Mustang. You know what I mean? To him, it's like, to dad or mom, that's a really, really an important piece of equipment that's a family heirloom
Sure.
to them. So you got to treat it with that kind of care and respect and, do the best you can.
Can you
Don't
imagine
hurt any feelings.
being around though when somebody showed up with one of those and everybody goes, "Ooh, how cool!" I mean,
Oh, yeah.
like back in when they first started making metal clarinets.
Oh, yeah.
What? How cool!
And, talk about tangents when we, talk about buying instruments. If anyone got a new instrument, especially middle school, we made a big,
Oh yeah,
oh my gosh, you'd be like, "Hey, Derrick, is that a new trumpet?" "Yes, Mr. Lunney, that's a new trumpet."
Ooh,
So, "Derrick, will you take that and show it to everybody in the class and walk up and down the aisles and let them see that?" And we would make a big deal because guess what kids do?
yeah.
They go home and they, "Derrick had a brand new trumpet. Oh my gosh, it was beautiful." And of course, moms and dads, if they're in the situation where they can afford to do such things, man, they'll jump at it if their kid's excited. It's amazing what we parents do when our kids are excited.
Yep.
There's nothing more powerful in this world than an excited teenager
Exactly.
to make adults do whatever they need to do to keep that teenager excited about what they're doing. That's just the honest truth. It's been that way.
They just want them to have the best experience they can have, and if that's what it takes.
That's right. No doubt. So some other things you can do when you're doing like your horn drive or whatever, have like in terms of branding. I think the band that I retired from still has the same logo that we designed. It's really a cool looking logo, and I kind of stole it from Hebrew in high school. The font and everything, it was kind of stolen from another school, and we put our stuff in there. But have like a backdrop, like one of those prop flats, and have the guy kind of like I chose the dress.
A selfie screen, yeah.
Yeah. They can take their picture with their flute, and and they can a lot of parents like to take their own pictures now. In the olden days, we would take the picture and to develop the film. Can you imagine that? We'd give them those pictures in envelopes, and they could take it home, and they thought that was the coolest thing. They're still kids. Now they're like 50 years old, but they're grandparents, some of them. But they'll still, when they see me, I've still got that picture.
That's cool.
So what picture? Well, when I picked out that I wanted to play clarinet, you took our picture in front of the Electro Tiger Band, screen, so I still got that picture. It meant a lot to them. It meant a lot to them. So branding, anytime I would show up at the middle school campus, which was every day because I taught beginning brass classes and taught sectionals, I would always have a pocket full of those cheap, is it Oriental Trading? That company that's it's like Amazon, except you buy trinkets and stuff, you buy party supplies, and you get those little rubber bracelet things.
Yeah.
Just a Wiley Pure Gold band. It'd be purple and yellow, and I'd carry a whole pocket full of those. And the kids did something really, really good, I would give them one of those.
Oh, that's cool.
That way they would stick them on their bell, or they put them in their case and they'd save them. And I stole that from a gentleman who was real near and dear to me by the name of Charles Enlow up in Wichita Falls, an amazing trombone player. And he gave pennies. If you did something really, really good, he gave you a penny. So if we were doing part of Lincoln Sharposi and I played the solo, and he goes, "Oh, Mike, that's really good." He gets a penny, he puts it on my stand. I still have that penny. It's in the bottom of a baton case. So we'd collect our pennies and take them into our folders, and he would come in clinic, and that was like winning the World Series to get a penny from Mr. Enlow. So I tried to incorporate that into the bracelets because kids don't have cash anymore.
Sure.
But they understand things like that. So we could get those pretty cheap.
And it doesn't take much.
Oh, no.
show that you care or you're paying attention.
Yeah, and it's more the appreciation, but it's a material representation of your appreciation.
Right.
That they can put on their trumpet bell or whatever, and Mr. Lunney gave me this. It became a deal. And plus, when you're the high school director, shout out to all my high school directors that are lucky enough to have a middle school staff. When you show up, you can just be grandpa band director.
Yeah.
You don't have to scream at a kid. You don't have to yell at a kid. You don't have to fill out discipline forms. You can ask them about their soccer game. You can, if they're wearing their FFA jacket or 4-H T-shirt, hey, what animals have you had before? Wouldn't you show? You can just have that casual moment instead of get in your chair. Mm-hmm. You can kind of be the grandpa band director. And not that we're trying to trick them, but yes, we are trying to trick them. We want them to think that high school band is such a cool thing to be a part of. And
so chill, so awesome.
Yeah. And then they get there and it's no longer lollipops and candy canes. It's shut up, sit down, and play your horn. It can't be that hard, dang it.
And first game's in 3 weeks. Let's go.
Yeah, we shock them when they get older, but we try to brand the fact that honestly though, I mean, I joke about it, but we try to brand the fact that it is a good thing to be a part of. We do not shy away from the hard work.
Right.
My middle school staff would laugh at me because when I'd have the 8th graders sign up for high school band, because we had our own little cards, I would tell them, okay, if you want to be part of something that doesn't get a lot of applause, and we work really hard and we sweat a lot, and it's kind of underappreciated by society, but you like to make music with your friends, I'm your person. You need to sign up for the high school band, and they would just kind of grin at me and they would sign up, but I never shied away from the fact that this is going to be grueling, it's a slog, buddy. It's a slog, but I never ever shied away from that. And we took great pride in that it's a slog, but we take great pride in doing the things that would irritate a lesser band.
I like that.
Yeah, that's how that was our mantra, one of our mantras. We take great pride in doing the things that would irritate a lesser band. So that was kind of our mantra. That was part of our branding. A hype video, oh my gosh, get a kid to do the hype video for you. That can be like going to beginner Sandy Lake contest, wherever, have a parent or a high school kid come with you and just film, not necessarily the music parts, but, a football game, hijinks, kids dancing in the stands, things like that. Just make it a whole lot of fun with a hype video. And
I know Steven is really good at that stuff like that.
Oh,
but I'm telling you, for the most part, your kids are going to be way better at that than you are.
Yeah, don't do it yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
what you think is cool.
Yeah, we're too old. It's like the bee's knees or something. I don't know. It's very groovy. Yeah. So just let the kids do it because they'll skibbity dibbity cap, whatever. Yeah. They'll do what kids do with their own slang.
I appreciate the fact that you're using the cool lingo.
Oh, I have no idea what it means. I can go cap, no cap. I have no idea what that means. I don't know. Yeah, skibbity dibbity. Yeah, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. I don't know. But have them do the hype video. Have the 8th graders come to a football game. If 8th grade's your class before high school band.
Right.
But I will say this, make sure it's good weather. I've seen times when directors will have the 8th graders come and it's like, rainy, miserable. Who wants to sign up for that? Don't be afraid to pull the plug on that. If the weather looks bad, just go, yeah, we're not going to do that. Plan B, because you don't want the kids in the stands miserable and the parents, my child had the flu because of the band program.
Right.
It becomes branding again. Band buddies, big brother, big sister, bigs, littles, whatever the band calls it. If you feel comfortable enough with your students, assign the freshman to a senior or a junior and make sure that all the parents know what's going on, that kind of thing. And I'll give my own little quick personal story. The one senior, I remember their name at Iowa Park is Mr. Lee Gwynn, because we had to call him Mr. Gwynn because he was a senior. Right. And so I came to band and he sees me come in the door, my hat all pale, ready to sunburn with my cooler and my little cornet. And he goes, hey, Lunney, trumpet, sit back here. So I go and I sit down. He gives me my shirt. It says like Lee Gwynn's freshman on the back. How cool. Iowa Park Hawk Band. So I think that's cool. And then he goes, what are you doing for lunch? Well, I'm a freshman. My mommy's going to come pick me up and probably fix me a sandwich.
I got PB&J.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I was such a typical, just little kid. And he goes, no, go to Mr. Miller's office because we didn't have cell phones. Ask Mr. Miller if you can use his phone. Call your mom and see if she'll let you come to lunch with me and I'll buy. So I was in the back of a 69 Camaro Super Sport with Russell Shaver, my best friend. We were his freshmen, eating tater tots and cheeseburgers. And I was sold. I was a member. I was bleeding green, and I could have been like deathly sick the next day, but I was going to walk to the band hall to get there. You know what I mean? So I was sold in. Now I realized that none of this had to do with the quality of music.
You say, I think we overthink this sometimes. It's amazing what makes us go, this is cool.
This is cool. It's not playing the second movement of Lincoln Sharp Posey. I want to be a part of that, or doing a Blue Devil copy ripoff show. Oh man, I really want to be in that band. It's no, Mr. Gwynn is really cool. And he told us, he sat us down, and it wasn't a slave kind of, you're going to do things for me. It was, my name is Lee Gwynn. I'm your senior. If you have any questions about anything, need help with your music, you come to me first and I will take care of it. I'm here to take care of you. And so 3 years later, Mike Lunney's doing the same thing for his freshmen at Iowa Park. And that tradition probably continues now. They've only had 2 high school band directors in like 45 years up there, So it's pretty incredible. So we'll kind of let that go because I know some people aren't real game for that. And I understand, you know what I mean? Because it brings in some implications. Just be careful of all that. Let's see some other things here. Side-by-side concert. Oh my gosh. Have your little ones come up and sit with the high school band just in a rehearsal on a Monday night.
Sure.
They will think you handed them the, silver platter to be able to sit next to those big boys and girls and play their horns and pass out their music to your high school band.
Huh.
So they come to the high school band hall and they play one of their contest march.
Right.
With the high school band playing next to them. And man, it's like, it's really cool.
Okay. You know what, Mike? Even our local symphony does that with the high school kids.
Oh, yeah. It's a great tool. It takes some planning.
Sure.
It takes a lot of planning, a lot of effort. I wouldn't make it required necessarily. You know what I mean? The kids will require themselves. Right. You know what I mean? Because we don't want kids forced to be a part of a recruiter situation on that. You could do I'm trying to think of other things we could do. I tell you what, though, kind of a tangent a little bit. We have to recruit now earlier and earlier and earlier.
Right. I think
because
we discussed that.
Yeah, these counselors and rightfully so, they're trying to figure out what the kids are going to do. And they're passing out cards like in February now.
I know.
I say passing out cards. That's how old I am. They're sending emails to links to the parents so they can sign up on the schedule. So you'd better get this going in November, December, January. If you wait till March and May, April, you're probably too late.
It's too late. Yeah.
And counselors do not like changes. You send 100 kids down to change their schedules, you just alienated your counselor. So don't let that happen to you. Right. I think some other things, we would have a bulletin board that was full of non-band accomplishments by band students. Right. So they were FFA milk judging contest. There's my Napoleon Dynamite, or state baseball tournament, or they're all district basketball. And I think that's cool when the little ones come in, the 8th graders, they see that bulletin board and they're kind of going, oh, well, so I can be on the all district baseball team, then I can still play trombone if I want to.
Right.
Make that happen. Do some things like make sure a reminder of events continually. So those parents need to know what are the normal events for the band program.
I'm going to say something selfishly here. There's many times when I'm trying to find information out about a program for valid reason. I just need to email a band director and I don't have an email. So I go on, be careful, Derrick. I go to websites and they're 3 years old.
Yeah.
Or there's nothing there.
Yeah.
So my point is, let's keep those things updated.
Yes.
Because you don't know how many parents are just looking for some simple information and go, this person is not even organized enough to have their information updated or a schedule I can look at, or, you know what I mean? Because
I'm with you.
That's the expectation in the world we live in. Electronically, you better be there and updated.
Yes. And I would say we always had on our web page, we always had a calendar that could be downloaded to Google or to the iCal. It could be downloaded to either platform. And anytime we changed it on that calendar, it would change it on their phone. And so that was always a good thing to have. And we always did like email blast every week, just the info going on with the program. That was verbatim on the web page as well.
Right.
And I will warn you about this for the ones who are listening. Try not to do every platform available, because to me, we tried that for a while and it caused more confusion than was worth.
Exactly.
Keep it as like one social media platform, one website connected to the school website.
Right.
And leave it at that, because if you do like 15 things, then it gets confusing real quick.
We are Google Doc people.
There you go. Google Doc. Yeah. And that's a big thing in schools. Oh my gosh. I had to kind of learn that after I retired. It did not really exist that much during the time I taught, but I'm getting fairly proficient at it on Google Drive, where I can download things and I can figure out what's happening. And as long as they include me in their list, I can figure out what's happening in their school.
Even Boomer Derrick can do it. So.
That's right. If boomers can do it, anybody can do it. For most things that I would give to the parents, this is so funny. I would go to the most clueless percussionist in my band, the one who just never did anything right. You know what I mean? As far as like responsibility. And I would get them to read through what I was going to send to the parents. And I'd say, does that make sense to you? They go, no. I don't understand this part. So I'd circle it, and then I'd redo that and give it to him the next day. And I'd say, does this make sense now? And he goes, oh, yeah, Mr. Lee, that makes sense. And so then I would take that format, I'd send it to the parents, because I figured if that one kid who's the most irresponsible one in my percussion section could read that and understand what I needed from them, then any parent could do it. And that weird system worked. And the kid just thought they were helping me. But I just knew that they weren't a dumb kid. They were just a very irresponsible kid.
Yeah. Somebody told me one time, because I love to write and use way too many words, and I'm the comma king. I'll have a 15-line run-on sentence with 18 commas in it. But somebody told me, look, if you'll write for a 5th or 6th grader, everybody will understand that a lot better.
They will.
And it's not putting down the 5th or 6th graders. It's taking out all my look at all the big words I can use.
Yeah. It becomes about them, not about you.
Right. Make it easy.
Make it easy. And some things we do in summer band, this is hard to do, but focus on those that have signed up.
Right.
If a kid is not signed up, there's nothing wrong with making a mention, talking to them. But don't let that consume every thought of your day, because sometimes you got to say goodbye, and try your best to get them there, but focus on the ones who have signed up. Let them gather your attention.
I think I heard you or Anthony Gibson talk about teach the butts that are in the seats.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with reaching out to the ones who are leaving to figure out, why did they leave? Is there something I need to change? There's nothing wrong with it. I would veer away from begging a student to stay in the program, because I've done that in my earlier years. And every single time I got burned, because now all of a sudden they're doing you a big favor by being there. So recruiting can backfire in that regard. Be reasonable in your efforts to get them in band.
From a recruiting and retention standpoint, though, I think it's much more important for the kids that are there to show them how much you appreciate that and how important they are, without making them go, what, we're not enough? You got to go chasing after all these people that don't even want to be here.
Oh, yeah. There's no doubt about that.
That's probably a blunt way to say it, but
yeah,
appreciate the people that are with you.
And a simple way to see that in action, I'll go do a clinic, and then it'll be a Monday night marching clinic, and the band will be sitting there, and the director will spend 10 minutes chewing out the band for the ones who aren't there.
Right. Wrong crowd.
And I always kind of jump in and very respectfully go, well, I appreciate the ones who are here right now. So the ones who are not here, it's going to be their loss. I don't want to waste any more time talking about the ones who are not here. Great. Why do you chew out the choir? Right. In the church choir, why do you chew out your church choir for the people who are not in the audience? That doesn't make sense. These are the kids who showed up. Quit it. During the summer, take them to a big DCI trip. We always loved that when I was in high school. That's how I got hooked into DCI. And it was a big trip for us. It was like 4 hours round trip. And we got to see the big boys, the Santa Claras, the Phantom Regiments. And we couldn't really do what they do, but, we could steal one thing.
Right.
Look how they did their horns down. Can we steal that? Yeah, let's do that.
If you know what I mean? That's the attitude they do it with is.
Yeah, and just
they're so cool.
They're the major leagues of marching
Right.
band.
Yeah.
So it's cool, and even involve your incoming freshmen in that. During summer band, do themed days. Kids love that stuff. I hate them. I really do. I think I do. I just want to work on the band stuff, but I've got to kind of slap myself and come on, these kids, they're not here to make sure they can do their fundamentals perfect necessarily. Have a Twinkie day where they dress up with a twin,
Right.
dress the same, or I think the funniest one, we've talked about this somewhere before in the past. JJ Forenza was Mr. Forenza. He was at Andrews. I think he's now the assistant with Jesus over at Cross Plains.
Oh, wow.
He's back in the band biz, so yay, JJ. But the kids decided to have a dress up like Mr. Forenza Day. So he had a big giant hat, like, a big huge hat, always wore brightly colored Magellan fishing shirts and the same cargo shorts and with white shoes. So they all dressed up like Mr. Forenza, and they did a big picture with like 60 of them, with Mr. Forenza in the front with his arms crossed, as disciples, but those are things the kids are going to remember way past the show thing.
Sure.
They're going to remember when they're 60 years old at reunion.
I was going to ask, did we ever have a dress like Mr. Lunney Day?
I used to have kids that would do that when we had like Twinkie or Twin Day, and they would show up in the same, because I'd always wear the same shirts and I'd always wear the same socks and the same shoes, and they would find a headset from somewhere, and yeah, and
Great.
Yeah. So they were funny, or they'd make their hair gray somehow, So it was all in good fun, and I like it, but we're social beings. Most of us are. I'm not as much a social being as a lot of people. I just like to play my music and be around my buds. But some, your social butterflies, you got to let them plan the events. And then you just kind of give permission. They ask for permission. And all that's about culture building. You're building a culture where kids want to be around. They want to be in your band. I think very importantly, as a band director, they want to feel safe that it's okay to make a mistake.
Right.
I'm not talking about bringing a knife to school or something, but to miss a note. You know what I mean? They miss a note and the director's rails on them forever about playing in that rest. Does that really fix the problem? How about just noting that, hey, I heard a trumpet playing the rest, let's be a little more careful about that and just go on. There's no sense in everybody point at the idiot that played in the rest. So, all right, idiot, let's talk about this.
Let me show you how well I've listened to you and Stephen Cox. Maybe, does anybody have anything they could do better the next time we go through this?
Yeah.
Or did anybody hear something that you did or know something you did that you can fix this time?
Yes.
As opposed to, hey, you that don't even know if you want to be here, what was that?
Yeah. There's a kid who's now a Marine that was in the Andrews band who was a freshman. He played in the rest. I'm clinic in the band. We do it again. I know he did play in the rest. I said, we're just going to march. Don't play. And a trumpet player, he go, rant. So we stop. I said, we're not going to play. We're going to march. Rant. Third time. Rant. Who is the bonehead that cannot understand what... His name is George, and he's now a Marine, so he's going to come and kick my butt one day. But he got a big kick out of it. When he was a senior, he goes, my name is Bonehead. That was his nickname through high school band the rest of his high school career because he was a freshman back then. So he was Bonehead forever. So try to stay away from that. I let my, not temper, but just like my frustration of, all right, who's the bonehead who keeps playing when there's 160 of us and one bonehead keeps playing. So he was bonehead for the rest of his 4 years in high school band.
Affectionately, of course.
Yeah, affectionately. And he laughed about it because I was a bonehead. I just wasn't listening.
Yeah.
And so he's in the Marine, so he listens more carefully now, I'm sure, after basic training. I bet there's a lot of culture.
But bonehead's not the word that's used.
Yeah, bonehead's not not used. And there's a lot of culture built, but it's not very warm and endearing. They just kick your butt.
Not warm fuzzies.
Some other things just kind of throw in there before we kind of close things up. Invite, if they can, your high school boosters to come to the middle school concerts at the end of the year and introduce them in the middle school concert. This is our parent president for next year because there's some connections can be made. Do a newsletter through the year, incoming freshman newsletters, just geared to them, so they don't feel like they're put on the spot.
So Mark, I'm going to interrupt real quick because you say newsletters. Are you talking about, back in the day, I used to get stuff in the mail, but is this more of an email blast kind of thing or
More of an
social
email
media?
blast, but we would still do one freshman newsletter that actually got mailed.
Okay.
And it cost us some money.
Sure.
And maybe they might have just thrown it away, but I know a lot of them had put it on their fridge. And, it just seemed more important when it came in the mail. But of course, we don't want to pay that kind of money for everything.
Right. It's not a 13-cent stamp anymore, is it?
Yeah. It's a bad deal. So just make sure you have some sort of information flow that goes to just the freshmen. And I always like to I'd have my incoming seniors write down their top 10 things that they wish they'd known when they were freshmen coming to summer band camp. And then I'd compile all that into a top 20 list. And that would be part of it. This is from our incoming seniors this year. Things they wish they'd, recommendations, so, So just things to kind of keep things going. Make sure, band app, if you have some sort of social media platform. Remind is what I use, but I don't even know if that's even a process anymore. That was really good for me with Remind. Any kind of website, social media, full teaching team buy-in. If you have even just one educator in your group that is against everything you're doing, it's going to kill you. And I think
let's slow down and talk about that for a second.
Okay.
Because I do think, listen, this is my opinion. You can help me because you've been there. As the head director, I pick the culture, or I create the culture, or I do things the way I do it because of the reasons that I have. Mm-hmm. And I know sometimes we get other people in, and I've heard other teachers reference this, that everybody comes from somewhere else. But I think it's I just think it's imperative. Is that too strong a word? That you have culture building meetings, moments, events, social, relaxed with your staff to help them understand who you are and what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And we say this all the time. You don't have to adopt that for the rest of your life, but while you're here, I need you on board, and this is the way we go. This is
right.
This is our forward progress, because I don't think people understand the influence that let me rephrase that. I think kids you said this before, they kind of gravitate to one or another on staff.
Yes. Personality-wise, not band culture-wise.
Right. So every personality has to be on board with the head person's vision.
Yes. I agree 100%.
And it's almost sometimes.
That needs to be a verbal agreement in the interview process.
Right. I get it.
Will you agree as far as band culture to do the things I need and support what I'm doing as a high school band director and the instructional leader of this cluster? And they need to verbally agree to that. So at least you've got a verbal gentlewoman's agreement going in.
I just think it's important not to assume they're going to do that. You actually have to talk about it.
Oh, yeah. I learned that the hard way. When I hired a band director, and all of a sudden I look out there, he's making them do 100 push-ups for missing a step off.
Right.
And I'm like,
I get it.
That's not what we're doing.
Right.
We can correct things without physical, consequences on that. We don't have to run a mile, and it shocked me, but then I realized, well, they're doing that because that's what they did in their high school band.
Right. That's what somebody taught them.
Or their college. And that's cool, but you've got to make sure to communicate with them, like you said.
So I didn't mean to slow us down, but I wanted to make sure that people, I think too often we assume people understand things that they don't.
Right. So, yeah, I've been here 15 years, and don't they understand? No, they had been here 3 months. Right. They don't understand what you're doing, I think the big topic to kind of tie it up with, make sure there's financial transparency. That's for a politically correct word. Financial transparency in terms of affording band.
Okay.
What are all the things there? Yeah. T-shirts. Oh my gosh. When I worked at my last school, our school's the T-shirt kings and queens of the world. They made a T-shirt for everything. So, so you had a section shirt and a band leadership T-shirt, and you had a work in the marching festival T-shirt, and you had the show shirt, and you had the travel uniform shirt. So, just make sure that you very transparent in telling the parents these are the general costs involved. And if it's a heavy duty, some bands have activity fees, sometimes up into $1,000, $2,000 range because it pays for like big trips to Indianapolis, so but make sure that you tell the parents that, and also make sure you have a plan B for kids who can't afford it. Because there will be kids who can't afford it. I don't care what community it is. And you've got to figure out a way to make that work. We don't want to exclude any child.
Again, I do think that there is sticker shock involved sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
So it's important to explain the whys and the how we can help, and the don't just automatically run away. Let's figure it out. We just need to show you the reality of what we're doing.
Yeah.
This is the cost of that reality. Now let's work together to get there.
Yeah. And I never understood the sticker shock because it had always been a part of my life, but I realized when my son got into athletics and he did not pay for one thing, cleats, underwear, t-shirts, nothing. So nothing with the school paid for everything. So I can see a parent who is always in athletics and their kid wants to play clarinet, while they're going, why isn't all this provided? Shouldn't all this be provided? So you've got to be very conscientious about making sure they know way up front. And that way, if they have questions, they can contact you before you're trying to get money, so they understand what's going on. With all that said, altogether, in terms of recruiting, never ends. You just got to always be on top of it, talking to the kids. Some directors go to events like Little League baseball games, things like that. Some don't, whatever floats your boat. But I think that's very beneficial to go to a junior high football game and just sit in the stands and yell for your trombone player who's an 8th grader, who's, maybe not a great band student, but a really good football player. Show the kids that you are interested if you have that type of time. But this process never ends, but I'm not going to say probably, it is the most important thing we do. Sure. It's more important than choosing your show or your music.
I'm going to slip one more thing in on you because you're talking about this from the financial standpoint and or just from the community involvement. Did you ever do like Rotary or Lions or?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it seems like a great place to find people to help maybe some of those I can't afford this situations. Yeah. It's so much better to have connection because you went to the Rotary or you went to the Lions lunch and you brought your jazz band or a soloist or whatever you did.
Oh, yeah. But you're right. I first got involved with that, not to get money out of those groups, but just because I really didn't want to go at first. It was just the principal would come and say, hey, we want you to speak at the Lions Club. Yes, sir. Yeah, you show up and speak.
Then I'll be speaking at the Lions Club.
I'll be speaking at the Lions. My boss said I'm going to do this. And then I realized how cool it was to kind of meet with those people. And this sounds so materialistic, but in a lot of those groups, there's a lot of men and women sitting there that have disposable income.
Right.
That love kids and love activities for their kids. And maybe we're a band student in 1975.
And love to see positive things happening in their community. They love to do it. Yeah.
And anytime I spoke to a Lions Club or Rotary Club, there was always at least one person at the end who can, Mr. Lunney, if you ever need anything, here's my card. Give me a call. And when I did call them, they always came through. It's like, man, I need like this much money for these kids who can't go to my Sandy Lake trip. And I got that covered. Just don't tell them where it came from. I just want to be an angel donor.
And that's beautiful. Yeah, I love it. Okay, I just wanted to just stick my toe in the water on that real quick, not trying to.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up because it's part of the community.
Right, and it's part of recruiting. I mean, it's part of you are branding your band in your community. So, yeah. All right, man. Anything else we need to know?
No, man. I think we've saved the universe this morning. Yeah. Once again.
My job is done here.
My job is done. I've saved the universe. No, but hopefully people listening can get a few little nuggets out of there that they can use.
No doubt. I appreciate you, brother. Talk soon.
Sounds good, man. It's been fun.